Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC. And today we are going to walk through the Nexus Ally product from the CTC Nexus Suite and give you a nice good overview of everything that it can do and what it's all about. Before I begin, I want to encourage everyone that is attending live today to ask questions using the questions panel. I will be monitoring that as I go along today, and we'll make sure to answer them in line where it makes sense, and then take time at the end to answer anything that is remaining. If you are watching this recorded version on our YouTube channel, use the comment section down below, ask your questions there. We monitor that as well, and we'll make sure that your questions get answered there as well. Let's go. So I don't know about you, but if you're like me, you've probably stayed up late cleaning up Revit models, repairing mistakes that were made, cleaning up, messy models, trying to repair some individuals' poor practices to kind of try to make a happy Revit file to kind of keep all of everyone in line, and keeps you up late at night. Sometimes you lose sleep over it because you have bad dreams and nightmares about what's going on in your Revit model. And maybe if you're, again, like me, you've had dreams where there was something we could do to prevent some of that stuff from happening. For example, what if we could stop people from exploding AutoCAD drawings in the middle of a project, exploding the entire floor plan? Or maybe we could prevent the disappearing of floors and roofs from our files. Or maybe we could find ways to inform our users of links to various bits of information on how to do certain tasks that are usually a little bit more involved than others. Or maybe new users, we can incorporate some additional training in Revit as they're working without having to take extra time to sit them down in a room and teach them things, which is always good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you not to do that, but maybe we have ways, there's a way we can accommodate some of that just during a normal work day. And there is, and that's what Ally is from the CTC Nexus Suite. We have ways to prevent things, to message people about tasks or commands, or maybe we find some elements that are incorrect and we need to get them cleaned up and replaced with something that is correct. Like there's ways to address some of this, and I'm going to show you how to do all that today. So today, Ally is formerly known as Project Standards, and if you've been around with us for a while, we call it Ally now, and it is part of the CTC Nexus Suite. So get that out of the way. What I'm going to show you is how it works, how to configure everything, what the user experience will be like in Revit in their projects as they are working from throughout the day, and how we can get everything set up, what all the different rules mean, what the interface looks like, how to get around and do all the good things. So at first, what is Ally? Ally has a number of different uses. It's intended to be your friend and your helper, and it can be used to help educate your Revit users in the office, whether it's what are the standards for building new wall types, or hey, we've got really complicated doors. How do they work? How do I make a new door type using our door families? We can put links to things, or tooltip messaging type things that happen in, as one would say, edit a door type or edit a wall type, or prior to editing the family itself. We can also use it to prevent things from happening, like the exploding of AutoCAD, or the deleting of a Revit link, or the unpinning of a grid, or the unpinning of anything for that matter. there's certain things that we can, pump the brakes on a little bit, so that so they have to at least ask the question, hey, I need this in my project, can we do it this way? Or something along those lines, right? And you get messages that'll pop up in Revit, and these messages are at least the text within is customizable. You can set it up to be what you want it to be. You could even put the password directly in the message if you'd like. If they are thinking about it and actually reading the messages that you're giving them, they can still do the task at hand. The rules that we can create can be applied at various levels throughout our company. They can be applied to everyone at the organization, or we can build out rules and for specific projects or a series of projects or individuals, however you want to set it up. Some projects are, even though same type of project like healthcare, might be a little different and require a different set of rules. So you can customize that as you need to. And we can set them up based on a group of users or for individual users, depending on their knowledge levels in Revit and their knowledge to the standard at hand or of your firm. And last but certainly not least, you get to keep up on the actions happening in your projects and in your models kind of in real time. Everything that then triggers a rule to fire off or a message to appear gets logged, and it's reported instantly in the dashboards or in the settings kind of area of the standards tab in the dashboard in the portal. So you can monitor that, and then there's different ways to kind of keep up on it and ways to set this up so that you can get some better visibility. So the first piece here, the first thing I want to do real quick is I'm going to show you a little bit about the user experience here, because this is what everyone's going to see once Ally has been enabled and rules have been defined and set up in your firm. So for example, I'm in my Revit project and I'm working around, and I noticed that, maybe I'm just kind of in my FF&E plans here, and maybe I need to build out a new work set, or maybe I want to control, maybe I feel like I just need to do something in my work sets, or something's not showing or is showing and I don't want it to show. So for whatever reason, I think I want to open up my work sets dialog box. Just umpteen different reasons why you would need to enter that. Right now, I've been blocked, and it's not necessarily prevented from accessing it, but I get a notice that says, "Are you sure?" Right? Either enabling work sharing at the beginning or making edits to the work sets requires some careful thought and planning, and maybe you don't need to make the work set after all. A lot of times people make work sets and they function like layers, right? So, and we don't need that necessarily for day-to-day Revit projects. In this case, though, I can type the password in because my BIM administrator was so kind enough to input that here. Now, if I remember this correctly, I think the password in this case does include the quotes, the exclamation point, and the 3 dots at the end. Yep, how about that? So they had fun with that one. But now I've typed in my password, I get access to my work sets dialog box. I can check out a work set now. I can disable the visible in all views. If I need to make a new one, I can do whatever I want at this point. And then, maybe I just needed to open this up to see who, or if anyone had access to a view work set or the project standards or any family and its own individual unique work set that gets created. I can check all that out right now. So I'm happy, I'm good, we'll close it. But that's kind of the experience here. And there's different rules and different ways you can manage some of this stuff. For example, with grids, or typically we don't want people to mess with the pinning and unpinning of those. We can put up a message that says, hey, wait a minute, just Are you sure you need to unpin this item? If you do, go ahead. And I can click continue and it unpins the grid for me. I could have hit cancel and stopped what I was doing at that point and it would not have unpinned it. So you have some flexibility in the messaging that you see. And then again, if I try to turn around and pin it, it's the same idea. Do you need to pin it? Now in this case, I'm just repinning something that I had initially unpinned, but you don't necessarily want people running around pinning everything. So we can, the rule that you create could be warn about pin unpin for anything, right? In the entire project, any category. And then if I were to try to say pin a table, I'd get notified. If I were to try to pin my dimensions, I'd get notified, right? So it just forces people to think about it a little bit more prior to just clicking and going, right? It's one extra thing to see a notification that pops up, forcing individuals to think about it. Another would be import CAD, right? Like, and this one just says, we don't want CAD. If I click continue, there's no continuing. There just isn't, that's been prevented altogether. So we've got 3 different results that we can work with here. We've got oops, well, that's still good for me then. Okay, well, we have prevention with a password that you can type in. Whether you share the password or not is entirely up to you. Some are sure, make them share it. Sometimes it's not worth it. Only your core BIM team, your BIM management group, digital practice tech, whatever you're calling them, they get them. And then they can help out as it makes sense. You have the warning message with the pin unpin. It's just well, I suppose I did that one already. You have the warning message, but I can still proceed, right? So I can still click continue and bypass it. It's just forcing everyone to kind of take a step back and think about it a little bit more before going forward. We're still okay with it. And the beauty of this is all of these, whether it's the passphrase one, the just a notice one, or the full-blown prevention one, all of those instances are being logged. Those rules got triggered. Those are being logged in. So from a user experience standpoint, that's what they're going to see based off the rules that you've put in place. Now we need to talk about how to set some of that stuff up. So we're going to jump back over to the PowerPoint here real quick, and I'm going to explain what some of this stuff means, and then we'll walk through a couple. So when you're creating rules, this is all done in the CTC portal. There's a tab up there now called standards, and we'll be able to set up standards and rules for Ally, but then there's also standards for family management and content checking and stuff. Different webinar on our YouTube channel if you're interested. So with the creation of a rule set, there's 3 key pieces that you need. You need a title, description, and the scope, right? And then depending on the scope, there's certain things that you need to fill out for that. The scope is what the rules apply to. Is it to the organization, which is everyone? Is it to a project, which allows you to pick a project number that's already predefined from your projects tab if you're using PAL or Project Activity Logger? If you are not using PAL or Project Activity Logger at the moment, you would have to set that project up for standards to be able to have a project specific set of rules that worked. You have user groups, so you can create a group of users and assign rules to that particular group, and they will be the only ones affected. Or you can manually add a user to a rule, or users to the rule, instead of building out a separate group. And maybe you do that for a couple people because either they're new hires and they're not familiar with the flow and the standards yet, or maybe they are repeat offenders and they keep doing things that we don't want them doing, so we tighten the reins a little bit on them, whatever the case may be, right? The flexibility is there is the point. Once you've defined your scope, now we have rule definitions themselves. So the rules are built within the scope, and there are two different types of rules that you can create. There's rules for commands, which is what we're going to talk about right now, and then objects, which will happen next. Command-based rules can help us control which commands are used, or provide insights or additional messaging about those in particular commands and tasks. Like with the pin on pin, for example, right? Do you really want to do that, right? We don't want you guys running wild and pinning everything, or unpinning everything for that matter. So think about it for a second. Or, when it comes to editing wall types or editing families for that matter, or edit anything. We spent a lot of time developing the content and the families that are being used, and potentially wall types or anything. Do we really want you messing with that stuff? Like, do you really need to make a new family or a new wall type? Why can't you just use what we've got here? You have the ability to, with the command-based rules, you can either do it to the entire command. So anytime the delete button gets hit, you get the message. Or anytime you hit edit family, regardless of what it is, you get the message. Or do we want to set it up for certain objects, like deleting a floor, or deleting a Revit link, or editing a window family, or maybe in-place families is a thing. You don't like people modeling in-place families, especially for casework, right? We can specify a rule for that. Or edit type on walls, like I said. And it can be a message. I suppose that was supposed to be me showing a message for a picture, but I effectively did that in our little demo here a second. And you can prevent the delete on a Revit link. The next rule type is for objects. And these object-based rules help you get the incorrectly defined content to be based off your organization standard. An example would be someone made their own wall type and used it all over the place. And that wall type that they made, honestly, is what wall type B6 is supposed to be. So instead of you going through and making that update yourself, we can build a rule that says, hey, take their wall type and replace it with B6. And when that rule kicks off, when the project opens, it's going to swap all those walls for you. And you can go ahead and do this for any object category. So maybe it's text. Maybe someone duplicated a text item to change the color for whatever reason, or because they just sometimes people do things and we don't know why. But you notice a duplicate text style that's effectively the exact same thing as what you've done already. You can set that up. Or maybe you loaded in a ton of drafting views and it brought in old text styles from 8 years ago, and we've changed our standards and our templates since then. No one went back and updated the detail library, or nobody went back and updated old archived projects. So now we have old text in our projects. We can create rules that finds the old text and swaps it out and makes it the new text. Dimension styles, same idea. Now this process happens upon file open. So when you open the project, that whether it's an org rule or a project-based rule, it happens when the Revit file is open. So when you open that file, the object swaps are happening at that time. So depending on what's being done and what rules you've created, that could potentially take a while. So just throwing it out there. I like doing this at the beginning, when needed, right? Like if I am seeing a whole bunch of content that doesn't belong, then I'll activate a bunch of rules and forcibly open the file myself and make that change happen, or assign that task to one of my BIM coordinators and have them do it. But like if a wall type changes, we can, and that was on purpose, and we knew that was going to happen, we can kind of use this to help update the model with some wall types to be changed, whether it's helping the design process or just helping keep a healthy model. We can use these rules for a couple of different reasons. Annotation standards changing is another example. Let's do some setup here. Let's show you how this all works. So I'm going to switch over to the portal, and I'm already logged in and on the dashboard tab. So when you're logged in, and you'll see a standards tab kind of just to the right of middle of the tabs list. When you click standards, the very first tab or page that you land on is for project rule sets. This is where we set up the standards and any of the rules that apply to our organization for the in Revit use. And I've already got 3 scopes built out. I'm going to build a brand new one just to walk you through everything. But here in the dashboard or in the portal here, all of your active rules are going to show up right away by default. If you've got a lot going on, we have some sorting options here for scope or versus what's active or not active, and by title. We also have the ability to disable rules so that you don't have to just delete them when you're done. Disable it, and then when you do need to bring them back, you can re-enable them. And you can organize by or filter your list down by the scope type as well, if the lists start to get a little lengthy. So, but in this case, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm just going to hit the plus sign here and create a brand new rule set. And for this, I am going to call this modeling best practice, we'll say, for fun. And I'm going to set this one up specifically to keep things from being deleted. Specifically. And now the scope level. Do I want to apply this to everybody in my company? Or is there a particular project that I'm concerned about? Maybe we got a really high profile project. I don't want things magically disappearing that shouldn't be, like a link, a floor, a roof, a ceiling, and all of the hosted objects that were attached to those elements, right? Like that's a lot of rework or a lot of digging around for a backup to copy paste from. You just keep it from happening. So it kind of depends on where you want it, or is there a particular user or group of users that you've identified that might be newer to the session and you're just don't want to make sure that nothing bad goes wrong, whatever the case may be. I'm just going to go at the organization and apply this to everyone. So I'm going to hit create and get that established. Now I'm going to start adding rules. So I click the plus sign over here and it's rule building time. So what I like to do personally with my rule setup is tell it what it is. What type of rule are we working with? So typically I format them in a way like this. So command, delete, and then what am I deleting? Floors. And then you can specify the target, which you can put a description in if you want. Mine's pretty self-explanatory at this point. So I don't really need one, but you could put one in. I'm going to set my rule target to commands and then click the criteria button. At this point, I pick the command from the left. So in the commands list, I'm going to grab delete, but we have a lot of other options here as well. Create from view, which is basically using views graphics settings to create a new view template from it, right? We don't need view templates created left and right. 9 times out of 10, what's already there does the trick. Edit family, exploding of AutoCAD, importing of CAD-based files, managing. I think this is mostly for project location and coordinates, shared coordinates and such. The mirror command, modeling in place families, using the edit type property area. Don't always want people modifying type properties. The move command, like with moving links and such. Partial explode and then pin on pin. All right, so we've got a pretty good list of commands to work with. And then as far as the object list goes, it's your categories. So in this case, I'm going to grab delete, and then from here, I'm going to search up floor and then click add. And then I'm going to hit save. So right now, I've just built out an individual rule to prevent the deletion of floors from any Revit file. And so if I hit prevent and show message, and I maybe don't even need to prevent it necessarily. Maybe just showing a message is enough to say, hey, you're about to delete a floor. Are you sure you want to do that? If so, click continue. If not, click cancel and reselect everything, right? So we don't have to necessarily prevent them from doing it. And you can customize this message to be whatever you need it to be. You are about to delete a floor from project, from the model. Whoop, I don't know what I just pressed. Are you sure you want to do that? And so, okay, there we go. I can't spell today. That's good enough for me. And since I'm not preventing it, I have no need for the passphrase. If I was preventing it, I have an option to put the passphrase in, and then someone can bypass it. If I don't put a passphrase in and I just hit create, that means just they can never delete floors from the project. I don't know if I necessarily want to prevent any floor from getting deleted, right? There are times where that's a very explicit need. I got to delete the floor because it was drawn completely wrong and I need to redo it entirely, right? And it's, or you could edit the sketch, but deleting it and redrawing it sometimes just quicker, right? Sometimes it's accidentally grouped into a window selection. You didn't filter it first and it grabbed your floor. Now it's deleted. So I think if you prevent, in this case, if I were to prevent it, I'd put a passphrase in. I'm just going to show a message and click create. So now I've got that rule done. We're good to go. I can click update. And now I've got a new rule set with a rule that, in this case, keeps floors from being deleted. So now I'm going to go back to Revit and restart it because I need to resync my rules. Rules sync up at project and Revit open. So, and while I'm reopening Revit here, I'm going to answer the question that came up about project files. Will this integrate with cloud sharing on BIM 360 or ACC? Yes, the file that I'm actually working on is stored in the Autodesk cloud space. So yes, because really all it's doing is all we care about is the file open, right? So the file's open on my machine. The rules sync up to the session on my machine, and away we go. So yeah, I'm going to open up my BIM 360 model here. It's going to recache the rule set and incorporate the new one that I've created here. And while that's open, there was a kind of a second part to this. Can this also integrate with Microsoft SharePoint and the new Autodesk content management that was just released on the family side? So this is very much focused on what's happening in your project, right? So if the families you load in, regardless of where they came from, you know, the Autodesk cloud library, content catalog, our CMS, doesn't matter. If it's in the project and you have a rule set up to disable the edit type of specialty equipment, it's going to disable the edit type of specialty equipment, regardless of the family. So in a way, yes, it does work with SharePoint, but it's really just focusing on what's in your project or what is being done to your project during a typical Revit session. We don't have anything family standards wise for Ally, like in that sense. So let's do this. Let me switch to my, well, let's see, let's go find a floor plan here. We'll just go to general, I suppose. And I'm gonna do my select by face command real quick. And I'm just gonna grab a bunch of stuff. And then I'm gonna hit delete. Oh, I have one for Revit links too. I guess I should probably turn that one off then. How about me? Let's do this then. Maybe I don't have a floor here. Nope, cancel. Jeez, there we go. Quick filter. I don't have a floor drawn here. Well, look at me. Let's make one. I guess my floors all came from the link models. But the same rules apply, right? Like we built a rule for deletion of Revit links, right? Oh, you know what? I bet my view range is set. That's probably part of my problem. Gosh, it's been so long since I've had to troubleshoot some of the things that I've done to set this up. Let's just make it work. Is it there? Still doesn't want to show. Why? Is my work set off? Oh, well. Gosh, I'm not even paying. No, it's not. I don't know what I'm doing then. Why can't I find the floor that I just made? Did I cancel it? I might just have to do it with the link that I deleted then, huh? How about that? There's a link. Can't delete the link though. There's two links of the same kind. Look at that. How about me? There it is. There it is. Success. So now I'm getting the message that we just set up that says, hey, you sure you want to do that? Now, if I click continue, because of how I've defined the rule, it allows me to delete that floor. So we haven't impeded on the ability to do the task. We've just forced them to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and think twice about it. Because at times you'd be working in your project, and that was kind of what I was trying to show in my original example. Sometimes you just do a window selection. You're not entirely sure or paying attention to what some of the selection settings are down below as far as selecting links or underlay elements or items by face, and you inadvertently grab a floor when you wouldn't have normally thought you did. And when you hit delete, it's going to stop that from happening because you had a floor selected. So at this point, it's like, wait, I'm not trying to delete a floor. So you hit cancel, you go back and figure out where that was again. Select previous and check your filter. Oh, sure enough, I had 5 floors picked. Oh my goodness. And maybe you slow things down a little bit, so you're being a little bit more careful with your work or not. And that is one of the intents for Ally, is just to get users to stop for a sec and make sure they're doing it the desired, the based off company standards or best practices, or not, or preventing newer users from developing poor modeling practices inside of Revit. We can set some of that stuff up. So yeah, I hope that you see something that you like and you're interested and want to know more about it. If you do want to know more about it, you can go to our website. I should have pulled that up. On our website, you can reach out to us at contact support. You contact our sales team. We can set up a call, get you guys some more information about it. You can always check out the Nexus Suite product page and sign up get registered for a trial. Get it for a few weeks, test it out, see how things work, see what you think. We've got some additional videos on our YouTube channel. Go up there, log in, check it out. And again, if you have questions, reach out. Sales support or info@ctcsoftware.com. And with that, I want to say thank you all. It's been a pleasure. You guys are always the best. And we'll see you at the next one.